Good morning. How's everybody doing? Right. Right. Cool. So, we've got feedback, track feedback. Very exciting. So I'm just gonna have a bit of a coffee, and then we'll make a start. So, what everybody will need to do though is preferably there's going to be a direct listening session involved in this track. So if you want to get a pen and paper, that would be a really good idea, because we're going to do attention and release direct listening to this piece of music, which we're going to do feedback on, and the track is from Sign. So thank you, Sign, for putting your track forward and being part of this. There we go. Right, get myself set up here. Right, that's that. Alright, let's have a look. Hi Enzo, how you doing? Forgot to set his alarm. Right. No, I'm here. I was only like a little bit late. Yo. I'm not nervous at all. No, there's nothing to be nervous about. We look alike. Very cool. Right, so track feedback. So this isn't going to be like what you would expect from a normal kind of track feedback session. I mean, there's probably two different ways I can give feedback. There's like mix and kind of compositional sort of feedback I could do, where you put the track into the door and I can go through very specific technical problems. But what I think, from an industry expert, right? Yeah, me, an expert point of view, okay? Or we can do it the most useful way, okay? Which is way more reliable. So remember what I always say about being an artist and having to deal with uncertainty. This is part of that. So when we finish our music, how do we know A, it's finished, and B, it's any good, okay? And a lot of people get stuck because they want validation, okay? I'm not saying this is you saying, right? So a lot of us want validation just to make sure our work is safe, right? That if we release it, nothing bad is going to happen, all right? Because basically instinctively, we're still very sort of tribal, all right? Going back to the Serengeti plains and throwing spears and hunting animals. To ensure survival, you had to be part of a tribe. And when you were part of a tribe, right, you didn't want to do anything outlandish because you'd be cast out of that tribe, and that would mean certain death. And our brains still function like that. And when we do music, or we make something and we're going to release it or go on a stream, there's that kind of fear of something bad happening, that we're going to get kicked out of the tribe. People are not going to like what we're doing, and we're going to draw fire. And this can really play upon our minds. And I'll never forget my first self-release. Well, not self-release, it was through 2 Dutch. So when I started doing my label whoring, all right, I got like quite a few offers through on my first track, and I was really surprised. And it still wasn't quite mixed or mastered, but I had some offers there. And it took 2 weeks for me to actually send it to the label, 2 Dutch at the time, which is a really good label, to actually release it, because I was just procrastinating on it. I still wasn't sure if it was good enough, and I thought, oh God, lots of people are going to hear this, and I don't want them to think that I'm a bad person because of my music, right? And that's how we think. The other thing we think about being an artist that makes us procrastinate, of the many reasons, is that we're frightened to release music that we feel is bad, right? And we think, oh, I don't want to release this. This isn't my best work. And it's like dragging this great weight about, isn't it? It's like, you don't want to do your worst album. But then again, right, how many artists, okay, have released terrible music that have pissed the fans off? How many artists have done a bad album? I think most have, haven't they? Everybody has that dip. But sometimes that isn't the case. It's just because they changed direction or they were trying something else out, So there's all these factors that when we get to the end process, that we really get hung up on. People get so hung up on perfection. I've been there myself. Perfection, making everything everything has to pop, everything has to be, or it can't go out. And I've seen people who think it's perfectly normal to spend 3 months on one track. I mean, literally 3 months. I remember watching an EDM producer, quite a well-known guy, producing a track, and he pulled his track up and he was like, oh, count the hours on how many, this one's not finished. It wasn't finished, and he'd already clocked up 60 hours. I'm thinking, that's just a ridiculous amount of time, isn't it? To spend on a track. I mean, that's nearly 2 weeks full-time job, just on one thing. That would do my head completely in. 60 hours is like a horrendous amount of time, So, yeah, I mean, it's all based on that uncertainty and fear that we get. So, the way forward is we can't always have feedback. If you send a track to somebody for feedback, or heaven forbid, right, you decide to go for playlisting, right, and then you get feedback of playlistings, right? Like, honestly, anybody who's done playlisting, please send me your comments from curators, because it's just I read them for amusement, just for a laugh, just so I can laugh. And honestly, they're so funny, some of them. So to be totally taken with a pinch of salt. All right. But the thing is, so how do we get reliable feedback so we can just get over that last little road bump, right? And just go, fuck it. I'm going to release this, because there's no other way to say it. All right? I'm not going to sit on this any longer. This is going out. I don't want it. Because at the end of the day, right, that music is, that music, when it's finished, it's not for you. It doesn't belong to you anymore. Sorry, Sign. But this is the fact, and this is how I used to think. It doesn't belong to me. It belongs to the world to enjoy. Doesn't matter what we think. We're artists. Our mission in life, okay, isn't to get stuck on one track and not release it, okay? Our mission in life is one of mastery, to improve, to experiment with our art, to try and achieve what we're trying to achieve, these goals which seem almost impossible. They're like the horizon. We get so close and then it's off again into the distance. That's mastery. We'll never ever find perfection. There's no such thing as objective perfection. How can there be? I mean, if you were to do a piece of music, what is the chances of doing a piece of music that everybody in the entire world of every culture and race agrees that is amazing, right? Very difficult. Impossible. And of course, those thoughts and opinions are changing all of the time. So we just have to do what we think's best at the time and try and do our best, okay? And try and understand that within the music itself, that it wants to be what it wants to be. And again, we're back to that kind of thing that's very spiritual about this whole sort of thing with music, right? Is what we've got to remember, and this is a very important thing, is that we serve the music. And this is another reason people don't release music. It's because it's what they want, not what the music wants. When the music wants to be what it wants to be, then it's ready to go. It's not about quality judgments on it doesn't sound professional or things like that. When it's ready, and we release it. So I hope that makes a bit of sense. That's what the fair use was all about. Okay. So, I'm just trying to think. Oh, I'm still waking up, you know. Oh, there's not many people here today. It's very quiet. It's because the lives are doing more kind of coachy things. People are just kind of not so much guitar, they kind of disappear. It's like, what's he on about? What's he like? I cannot sit through this. So I think some people, like, you know, when you're coming onto this stream and you're doing a session like this, and I'm sort of on one of my, well, I wouldn't call it a rant. When I'm doing one of my talks, I think people in the halfway through are probably like, I don't understand what's going on here, I'm off, which is fair enough. Oh, which reminds me, so again, Patreon, getting a lot of visits, but not so many free members joining up. Don't worry, you're not getting sucked into anything bad. Just joining a Patreon site. So if you go on the Patreon site and it says become a member, if you go to the three dots at the top, that's my right hand, isn't it? The top right hand side of your screen, and you push those, then that'll get you the free join button, and then you can join free. But there's been quite a lot of people kind of visiting and not joining, which is fair enough. But we've had a few paid members, which is very, very exciting. So that's been good as well. But if you'd like to pay and support the channel for $4, that would be good as well. The channel's having a little bit more of a structure starting from next week, where we do habits, which I'm looking forward to. And what I'm really looking forward to is seeing what the results are from that first month, to see if people do follow along, and if it motivates, well, not following along, but if it motivates them into kind of having good habits and making shitloads of music. Right. You should start an ASMR stream where you read books. My wife loves falling asleep to hearing your commentary. All right, that's good. No, I couldn't do that. I'm dyslexic. I'd make loads of mistakes when I'm reading and miss full stops and stuff like that, and it wouldn't be good. But yeah, feedback. So on feedback, what we want to be is, as I say, musical sovereign individuals where we don't have to rely on other people's comments. You know, there's so many and thoughts and feelings on our music. Okay, if they like it, great. That's what we want. If people have constructive opinions on, you know, it, then that's fine. That's for them, and it's to do with their preference. Okay, but none of this is, you know, you know, like you send something to a playlister and like you'll say, oh yeah, for me, the song's good, but it's a little bit sad for me. I mean, what do you do with feedback like that? Oh, right, I'll change we'll make the first chord major. You know, it's like, you wouldn't do that, would you? But you do get like nonsense like that for feedback. And they always say, for me. Hi, Craig. Fan since COVID. That's brilliant, Craig. Yeah, God, it took COVID from. You see, there's procrastination. You know, like the biggest challenge for me was like setting up this whole channel. I mean, I'm now quite comfortable sitting here just talking and drinking my coffee, and although it could be seen as quite boring, that's, you know, being able to do this is one of my big achievements. Simply because I was so uncomfortable in front of a camera. It's taken me from COVID till now just to act how I normally am, within reason, when I'm about the house. You know, well, not quite. You know, I don't shout at you. I never shout at anybody. I don't randomly argue with, I don't know, Enzo or something and storm off. But you know what I mean. All right, we've got some people coming in. Good day, Lads and lasses, home early today so I can catch the stream. Great, it's a feedback session. Track feedback. Right, okay, so I'll explain again the model of what we do here. I should get myself a whiteboard, shouldn't I? That would be really good, like what Rick Beato has. Or a little whiteboard. Oh, that's what I'll get. I'll get a little whiteboard. Brilliant. That's what I'll get. Oh, right, I'm going to order one today. My writing's terrible. Although if I write, will it come out the right way? We'll see. Because I'm going to explain what it is that we're doing. So when we are giving ourselves self-feedback, don't do what Rick does. No, I'm not going to do that, a lesson thing. But because we're doing this, right, I'm not going to go into like a college lesson. But I do need, for when you're coaching, it's a bit, it's a bit easier. All right. Have you ever considered adding a podcast section? As mentioned, also, whiteboard is perfect. I use one for my daily tasks. There you go, Enzo. I used to have one for my daily tasks. Right. So the tool that we are going to use, the framework, is called Paths. Right. So this is what I was coached on by Mike, and what we have is we have a purpose. That's the first thing. In fact, let's listen to the music first, right? I'm going to put the track on now, and then I'll give the explanation, because if you've got like music in mind, I think what I'm talking about will make more sense, maybe. In fact, no, I'm going to explain first. Right, so the tool that we're going to use is Paths, right? And what we have is we have the purpose, right? Now, what the purpose is, and that's the main central thing to all of this, the purpose is what the song is about. What is the emotion that the song is trying to project? Okay, why are you doing what you're doing? This is the purpose, emotion, story, all of that kind of thing. Purpose is not a function. A function is, and I'm sure you'll know this, a function is like, this music is to dance for, this music is to play at weddings, okay, this music is for a religious purpose, okay. Purpose is about the story. So that's the first thing, okay. And that really is the heart of everything. So if we think about it, I know we're not talking about slapping an EQ on a channel and fixing a track or something like that, okay. We're talking about something that's much, much more deep. I mean, this is like right to the bottom root level of everything, okay? So purpose, the story. Then we have, if we think of paths, we have A. And for A, we have the arc, okay? And if we think about it, we'll have purpose as the central thing, right? And then we have the arc. Now, the arc is revolving around the purpose there. Why? Because it serves the purpose. Like, we serve the music, okay? And when we're rating our music, we want to like think about, well, how well does the arc serve the purpose? So how well does the structure, the way the parts are put together, how is the tension and release working? How's the arc serving the purpose? And what we'll do is we can rate it 1 to 10. Then we have the thing. It's called the thing because there is no sort of music theory actually about the thing, okay? But what the thing is it's something, right, that releases the most tension from a piece of music. So if you think of like verses building up into something, and then the chorus might kick in, and then that might release the tension. It's the punchline, okay? And then you're like, oh, right, yeah, I know what this is about. Yeah, great. It can be the drop of a dance track. Like sometimes, like, in dance music, you're building so much tension, like people will be dancing about, and there'll be a point when you see them actually stop dancing. They're just like, put the hands up in the air, right? And that's the maximum point of tension. and then the beat drops and it's like, and then you're off. Okay, so that would be that drop can be just like the thing. Okay, so it's like the main punchline, the point, the thing that releases the most tension in the music. The example I always give is Michael Jackson's Thriller. So the way they use the bass line, the dun 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 dun, right? There's like that song is full of tension. Okay, it just builds tension. Even the chorus is tension, but then that bass line comes in after the choruses, and it releases all that tension, and you can actually feel it in your body. So like the tension doesn't just drop off a cliff; it slowly kind of fades off, doesn't it? And you can see people when they're dancing, they're like, "Oh yeah, all right, not sure. All right, yeah, come back into the beat now. Yeah, I'm off." So. That's the thing. Hope you've enjoyed my very brief singing and dancing there. All right. Hooks. We need earworms, don't we? All right. Hooks are pretty important. We want to make something hooky. So like lots of little guitar lines, lots of little bits of melody, a good hook on the chorus, like something that's memorable, that people take away going, oh, what was that tune? I was listening to it on the radio the other day. You know, something hooky where the Shazam your track, you know. So hooks. And then another interesting one is space. So do we for electronic musicians, do we make the music sound like somebody is sat in front of your computer next to you, like when you're producing it? All right. Or do we give them some sort of amazing metaphorical space that they can explore, like the mountains or the sky or inside a spaceship or inside a cathedral? Okay. So space is important. We don't necessarily have to think of space. You know, it can be if you record an acoustic guitar, you might record in an interesting room, you know, and you can imagine that room and the person being in it and things, pictures. And, you know, movies can start happening in your head with space. So space is a very, very important one. We can also use things like found sound to create space. It's not just like slamming your favourite reverb on something, you know, although that is part of it. But then space is also the space between the notes. Space is to do with how phrases are played. So space is like a very, very important thing. And sometimes overlooked, you know. So space is the other thing. So paths, those are all of the things that serve the purpose. So paths is a really good model to do that. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to listen to Sign's track, which is called Find Me, okay? I'm not going to tell you what genre it is or anything like that. We're going to listen to it, okay? We're not even going to necessarily think about paths. But what we are going to do is we're just going to focus in on the music. Now, one of my favourite direct listening exercises is the tension and release one. So we've done this many, many times, and that's like why I'm saying we need a pen and paper, okay? Because what you're going to do is we're just going to map out the tension and release of the track. So as the track plays, you know, the more sort of intense it gets, the more it builds, okay, in intensity. The line goes up, and then when it releases, the line goes down, and we're just going to do that through the track. Now, the reason for this is we might, you know, we can use that if there's a tension and release problem, we can spot where it is, okay? But actually, what it's good for is an anchor to stop you from being having too many judgmental thoughts, right? So for you, you know, for Sign, this is very important, okay? Because obviously we're all going to listen to your track, right? And we've got self 1 and self 2, right? So self 1 is the editor, right? So self 1's the narrative circuitry, the part of your brain that's telling you what to do all the time. And self 2, and when I call them self 1 and self 2, I'm referencing the book The Inner Game of Music, by the way. I'm not saying we're all schizophrenic, you know, with different personalities. But self 1 is, you know, the editor, and self 2 is the part of us which is where all the limitless possibilities are. That's the performance self. So when I'm playing guitar and things are going really, really well and performing, I'm completely embodied in the experience and I feel like I'm making decisions effortlessly. If I play a bum note, suddenly self one jumps in to try and rescue me, tell me what to do, and all you do is you end up listening to the self one narrative, which isn't helpful, by the way, because you end up listening to it and not the actual music. And the same as with your music, when we play this, and at the end of the day, we're all just human beings. You're going to listen to that music and you're going to remember possibly negative things when you were writing it, or notes that weren't quite right, or a phrase that you sang that wasn't quite right, and you'll dwell on that and have thoughts about that instead of like listening to the music. But what we want to do is not have any of that thinking and just listen to what is coming out of the speakers. That's the most important thing. Why? Because the music coming out of the speakers is recorded. We can't change that. That is fixed. So whatever it is, right? Our thoughts and feelings aren't fixed. They're moving about. So therefore, they're completely unreliable. So we just want to think about this scientifically, okay? We want to approach just the data, not the feelings. All right. Is everybody following that? What about diversity of song structure, melody, and rhythm to avoid each sounding? Well, okay, if we're referring to paths, right, then paths is going to work on any piece of music, because any piece of music, for it to be effective, okay, to the listener, has to have tension and release. Even like the wildest jazz improvisations, they're playing, but probably on a micro level with tension and release. So it'll work with whatever diversity in song structure. It's not necessarily like we're thinking, like I was referencing dance music and things like that, because that's what I've produced a lot of, right? And it's the most obvious thing to talk about that everybody can relate to. But the arc, the thing, hook, space, you could apply just to a micro composition if you wanted to justify it. You could apply it to an outrageous guitar solo that you're playing. So it still works in those terms, because there has to be a purpose, doesn't it, to what you're doing, or a story, or a feeling, or an emotion. Foreshadowing confirmed. All right. Okay, so are we ready? Let's do this. Right, so I'm gonna sit this way, and I'm gonna do my tension release map whilst listening to Sign's track. Oh, good. So, anybody who's just come on, please do give some thumbs up. I've only got 2 thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. Also, check out my Patreon, which the link is in the description, and join the Discord. Okay, let's have a listen to this. So this is Find Me by the wonderful Sign. And again, Sign, thank you for putting yourself forward for this, because a lot of people who watch this are gonna really benefit from this, the insights. Okay, so here we go.
Staring at the ceiling, ignites this place. Yet I do not know from where. Such familiar isolation, a burden I'm alone to bear. Now I wonder, will you find me in the thunder and the lightning? Will you pull me from the darkness, get me back into the fold? Yeah, I wonder, will you find me in the shadows where I'm hiding? Pull me up into the light and fight like hell to save my soul. Scared of all I'm seeing, trying to ignore dark and faceless beings, draw closer evermore. Nearly close my eyes to breathe. Beg for relief from this despair. Such a futile demonstration. I know the gods here do not care. Now I wonder, will you find me in the thunder and the lightning? Will you pull me from the darkness, get me back into the fold? Yeah, I wonder, will you find me in the shadows where I'm crying? Hold me up into the light and fight like hell to save my soul. Yeah, I need you to find me. Oh, whoa, won't you find me? I need you to find me. Oh, whoa, won't you find me? Oh, won't you find me? Find me, find me.
Okay. Right. Very good. So I'll come back to other things that are in the chat here. Okay. So Sign, did you do one of these? If you didn't, don't worry. All right. And I'm going to ask you some questions now. I know you're typing, okay? So obviously it's like it's a bit limited. But the first thing I'd like to ask is, how did you feel when you heard that back? Will you be able to pop something in the chat saying, I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but this is good. Feel hearing back now. So how did you feel about me playing your piece of music? What when you heard your music, what did you think? Feels cool. Good. Right. So here we go. There you see. So you're already getting like feedback. You know, because at the end of the day, everybody on here is the end user sign. But remember, sovereign creative individuals is what we are. We are proactive, not reactive. Yeah. And this is what we need because, you know, when you do put your music stuff out there and, you know, playlist curators get involved and all this sort of stuff, right? They're going to give you absolutely useless feedback, but some people are going to take them on board, right? Because they have no framework for their own self-feedback to counter that. Okay? So, because feedback it's just very subjective most of the time, isn't it? So anyway, okay. So we have the purpose. Now, what I'm going to ask you is just to rate yourself, okay? So the first one is the arc. So you've got the structure of the track, right? How well does the arc reflect the purpose of your music? And I want you to rate it on a 1 to 10. So how well does the structure reflect the purpose? So the emotion, the lyrics that the story, the lyrics, the story that the lyrics are telling. How would you rate that? From 0 to 10. Well, you can't really have 0, 1 to 10. Right, you can't have both. It's either a 6 or a 7. Hi, Sean. So which is it signed, 6 or 7? Six. Okay, The Thing. Hi, Sean. I did say hello, didn't I? Sean's here, everybody. There we go, get you up in lights. Boom. There he is. So we're doing track feedback session. We've actually just listened to the track. We're just now going through rating it. So if you want to have a listen to the track, it's something that Signers wrote, and it's on the Discord. It's on my Discord in the feedback section, and it's called Find Me. So if you want to have a quick listen to that, you'll hear what we're on about. So we have The Thing next. So I gave an explanation about the thing that releases the most tension. So in other words, this would be the chorus, I believe, in this section. You heard it earlier. Brilliant. He was very impressed. There you go. Saying. So The Thing, how would you rate The Thing in terms of it serving the purpose? How well does The Thing serve the purpose? Five. Okay. Hooks. How hooky is this song? So how would you rate 1 to 10 the hooks? Oh. and then space. How would you rate the space 1 to 10? Six. Right. Okay. So, what I'm interested in hearing is, can you say in the chat roughly why was the arc a 6 and not a 10? Would you be able to tell me why the arc was a 6 and not a 10? I'm sorry, you can take time. We're here to do the feedback session. Yeah, that's fine. I know I'm putting you on the spot here, Sign. This is great. On the hook for the style again, 7 space 6, but production could fix that and subsume parts. Yeah. It's important that we can only... Hi, Jeffrey. We're just doing some track feedback here. Good to see you. So, the foreshadowing comment was in relation, not enough variation. Okay. Okay, then. I see. All right, 5. So you rated yourself for Thing 5. Why did you give yourself a 5 and not a 10? Just while you're having to think about that, I'm just going to give Jeff a quick explanation of what we're doing here, because he's like, come on, I don't know. Jeff, I don't know if what this is. It's a track feedback session, and on my Discord, if you go there, the link's in the about. There's a track by Sign, who's kindly put himself forward for track feedback on there, called Find Me. So that's the track that we're doing feedback on. This is about... When I say feedback, it's not me having an opinion like a great guru, but what I do have is a framework of how you can give yourself your own self-feedback, and it's called PAFs. Okay, and PAFs is an anagram for basically the elements that make up your music. So the purpose, which is the story, the lyrics, the emotion, the feeling, arc, which is the structure, the thing, which is like the chorus, the thing that basically releases the most tension from your music, hooks, how hooky is it, and space is the space that you put the listener in. Okay, so that's what this is about. We've listened to the track. What we've done is attention, just as an anchor, so we're just focusing on the music. We've done a tension and release graph, and now basically, I'm at the point where I ask Sign to rate each part of PAFs. So, for example, he's given himself for arc, for the structure 6, for thing 5, and for hooks 4, and for space 6. So, execution is a bit bland, lacks dynamics. Okay. Okay, hooks. What would you rate yourself for hooks? And I know that obviously you can only type so much into the chat, and I'm putting you on the spot here, but this is all good stuff. This will give us a taste of what's going on here. Okay, not surprising. Okay, right. So, and that's for hooks. Not surprising. Oh, hooks, yeah. So you had hooks. You rated at 4. So why was hooks a 4? So if you've answered hooks, just copy and paste it back in, so I know which is for hooks. If not, why did you rate hooks at a 4? It's a 2 now, right? So why is it a 2? I can still hear the chorus melody. It's repetitive. I don't know. Okay. Right. We're going to answer Enzo's question later, Sign. I just want you to stay focused on this. Sorry. Okay, next. Oh yeah, hit the thumbs up button. Space. Okay. So how well did the space work? In terms of the purpose, how well did the space work? Now, you put a 6. Why was it a 6 and not a 10? Don't apologise, Enzo. It's fine. Yay, Jeff, thank you. You can rate 10 if you want. Yeah, 10 is fine. So if it's a 10, it's a 10. And that's good. Okay. So we've got the arc at 6, the thing at 5, hooks at 2, and space at 10. All right? And all of these things are serving the purpose, the story of what you're singing about. All right? And the mood and the emotion. Right, the 10 is just 10. There's like nothing, like it's fine. You've nothing's there bothering you. It's like, all right, yeah, that works. Yeah. So that's cool. That's all that's about. Okay. So what I think what's quite interesting is when you're making some of these comments, there's things that you'll say that are bland, lacks dynamics, right? So that was for thing, and I'll just go for thing first. Bland and lacks dynamics. Now, the problem with that sort of language is it's very variable, okay? Like, what would you do if you wrote, if you basically said, Tim, fix this song, and you wrote on the list of how to fix it, it's bland and lacks dynamics, right, for the chorus. I wouldn't really know what to do, okay? So the first thing you've got to think about, right, is using language that is the term I always say that is concrete, binary, that is hard to vary, okay? So a good example is dance music, right? People go, oh, the groove's not right. We need to fix the groove. Well, what are you going to fix on the groove, right? So a better answer would be the beat needs to swing. So I've got 16th hi-hat pattern, and I'm going to get every 16th note, and I'm going to pull them back a couple of clicks and see how that sounds. I'm going to move claps and snares forward so the transients aren't like lining up, and the beat will have more forward roll. Okay, so that would be a very, very concrete thing that's hard to vary, and you could put that on a list. Fix the groove, just try and get it to like swing a bit, make the instrument swing, move every 16th note, right? So that's a way of kind of terminology that you can put something like that. So bland and lacks dynamics, and the problem with that is when you go into a session, and I'm not saying like this, everybody does this, right? You'll even see me do it even now, doing like things that are so vague like that. Now, one of the risks with actually doing that is when you come to your studio session, okay, you'll just go crashing into the chorus, it's bland and lacks dynamics, and then you'll start working on something and you actually make it worse. All right, and this happens all the time. I say this happens so many times. Yeah. Yeah, of course. Yeah, if we were speaking in person, you'd have more to say. Yeah, of course. But we can only do what we're doing sort of on this chat, okay? So, so dynamics. So I'm just pointing that out, okay, because we do this on lists, right? And obviously you're limited for that, right? But I just have to say that. Okay. So there was a lot of things like that came up sort of in the overshadowing. So I thought that was quite interesting and like wanting variation. So again, when you approach all of these problems, right, what we need to do, and there's a process for this, which the way you do it, right, is so you'll play your track, okay? And then when there's a bit that's bothering you, you stop, okay? And then what you have to do is, and this is when you're unsure, right? This is a real concrete way of doing it. It takes a bit of time, but actually with practice, you end up thinking like this, and you're just like, I just automatically do this now. So you'll get to a section of your track where there'll be the problem, and the process is you have to be able to, in your own way, describe what's going on. So you'll describe what's happening in that section. What you're not going to do is mention like why you don't like it, or what the problem is, or how you're going to fix it, because people always like then suddenly jump to like a solution, okay? But what we're trying to do is in our heads, listen to all the instruments and build up almost, I think of it like a 3D model. So you know where the kicks are lining up with the bass, where the guitars are sitting, where the hi-hats are, where the vocals are. So we'll build this kind of working model which we can see into, right? So that's the first thing. So you're going to describe it, right? Then the next bit is, then you can start to explain why whatever it is there that's bothering you. So if there was like a weird root note on a bass clashing with the guitars, you'd be able to see that now, and then you'd be able to fix that, and then you would move that. That would be an example, not saying that's happening in your track sign. So you would then do an explanation. So stop it, pen and paper, you write down describing what's happening, okay? Then you write an explanation. And that can include why it's bothering you, okay? And then after that, you're just going to come up with like lots of solutions of how to fix it, okay? So you'll come up with a load of solutions. And then when you've got a load of solutions of how you're going to fix it and what you're going to do and actions, you're going to pick the one that's going to have the most impact. And then you're going to try that out first. And that's the process. And you do that for every problem that you have in your track. Okay, so I'm hoping this makes sense. So it's the most sort of, like, this system's really good, right? I know it's like almost void of like the emotions and the feelings, and it's a very sort of like almost scientific approach. But when we're coming to the end of our track and it's nearly kind of finished and we have these problems, we need to put what we think to one side, and we have to just be able to analyze the music for what it is. And we also have to think like a listener as well. Okay, so they're gonna listen to it once, maybe if you're lucky, all the way through on Spotify, because people are just distracted these days, you know. And half the things that we hear, they won't notice. All right. There's another thing to bear in mind. Okay, so really, when we're fixing things, we want to be going for the big problems first before doing anything small. And this is really another important pitfall people go into. So rather than fixing the bigger problems, which are, you know, more impact for the listener, less impact for you, what people will do, because it's a dramatic change, they can be quite fearful of that, and then they'll just go, you know what, I don't want to destroy this, I'll just do the tiny little things first. But actually what you find is, by doing the bigger problems that's in your track, in your mix, in the composition first, it negates the smaller ones. So you end up doing like less work, and I can guarantee that. Okay. So that's another thing to bear in mind. So there's all this kind of mind trickery that kind of goes on, especially when we get to the end phases, you know, of doing this track. But technically, Sign, you've played, your track's been played on here, and people are liking it, and it is good. And technically, you've released it, so you're gonna have to put it out there. So, hooks, you said something interesting there. You said, I think it was a lack of, I don't know if I got this mixed up with something else, a lack of hooks. But then you also used you said I don't know, and I know you're limited for space, but actually not knowing is good, okay? So it's either hooky or it's not. If it's, where does it need to be more hooky? If it needs to be, if you're not sure, that's fine. Like, not knowing about your music's perfectly fine, okay? That's another important thing to take in mind. I do a lot of things and I don't know. Most of my improvisations I don't know. When I'm properly improvising, I don't know. That's the truth. That's okay. So if we were right, okay. If we were speaking in person, I'd stare at you like a weirdo. Stare at me, or have I missed out? It's the opening vocals. If I had to identify a hook, I'd say in the opening vocals. So, yeah. Just put them. Just put it in Discord on feedback. So if you join my Discord, the link's in the about, and then you can put it on there, which would be great. So yeah, so the real key for me for getting all of these numbers up is this method of just being able to describe, explain, come up with solutions. Okay, and then act on the solutions that are the higher order ones, okay, and then that will negate all the smaller things. So, feedback. So I can give you some feedback on it, okay? And this is what I think, Sign. I think it's a really good track, okay? For me, like, as if I'm I felt that it went on a bit long, and I think the only thing that really bothered me about the track was when we went back into the second verse, I felt it should have been half as long. So if I was doing that, if this was a McRocklin Hutch track, right, I know what I would do. The first thing I would do is I would completely delete like probably the first or the second half of that second verse, so the chorus comes in quicker. And then the other thing is but then I used to produce a lot of pop, right? So I just want to be bang straight in there. So it's that typical structure of like the verse 1 is like, twice as long as verse 2. Yeah. So like the first thing, like in this I'm saying this, right? Because it's an example of a higher order problem where you just chop that out and then the whole feel of the song feels a bit more dynamic and a bit more straight to the point. Okay? So it could be that, the another thing is I was like, when the chorus came in the first time, all right, you didn't have any, there was no vocals, so it was just instrumental, and I was like, oh, that's cool, guitars are big and I'm enjoying this, but like, hold on, what's going to happen now? Which could be a good thing or a bad thing, but again, people might just switch off, right? So I felt that like that first half of that first chorus, chopping that out, right? But the guitars sound good, and I do like the fact that they're powerful and it's a wall of noise. So that kind of whole guitar thing is something that I would transplant to the end of the song, right? And use as an instrumental break if it needs it, and maybe add like a really hooky, like for me, like I can't like a Nirvana kind of chorus sort of lead sound I would use. So I would use that probably for some sort of solo section, and then take out maybe the second clean guitar solo section, this is only a thought, but have that later on. Okay? But again, these are examples of what I would do, all right? I'm not telling you that you should do that, okay? But like the problems that I see in the track, if anything, is the length of it and the structure, okay? But I would imagine if you take out that chorus, you kind of get the first chorus in quicker with your vocals, right? You use that kind of wall of noise somewhere else in the track, then that's going to kind of solve a lot of the dynamic problems out as well, because it's going to create more variation and the track's going to be more at the point. Because I think like a lot of the thing is when you're talking about dynamics, it's because things are going on too long, and you're kind of left wondering, you're not getting that distraction. So I think one of the first things to do when we have these problems is it's a structural thing. It's like an editing process. And what you can do, sign as well, is you can just get your track, right? And I'm sure this is like obvious when you do this, right? But just pull your track into a DAW, right? And then just chop the sections out and then just see how it sounds. Just do a rough edit and see if that fixes the problem. The words would be a bit incoherent. Now, I'm just assuming, right, that you have this on your computer and you can do this, right? Do you have the masters with the tracks on your computer? If not, we're going to come up with something else. Because I've got something else to say. And then the other thing is, do you have some more songs? Because I know you said this wasn't finished. Right, okay, that's fine. I mean, you could try like doing a hack job, right, and doing it that way. But in my honest opinion, right, okay, you could just release that track the way that it is. Because there's nothing like, it's got so many good things about it. It has got a great chorus to it. It's like in your face. Okay, I know the structure thing kind of winds on a bit. It has got some nice little guitar hooky bits in there. That's cool. And the thing, you rated like 10 for your space, and that's definitely a good rating for the space, because I love that guitar intro. It puts me somewhere, you know. It puts the listener in a space that was like super effective. But as a piece of music right now, you could just release that and it wouldn't do you any bother. I mean, everybody else has heard it on this, and I think as with me as well, we've all been surprised at how great it is. You know, the vocals sound great. It's well played. It sounds part of that genre. You know, it's good, and people who love that music will who like that genre will love what you're doing. It's a fact. So what you have to do, Sign, right, is, well, you've got two decisions, okay? You can't go back and you can't edit it, but it's fine the way it is, all right? So just whatever you do, right, just put the track out. It's done. Put it out. But now you've got this model of how you can rate your music. Okay, and all the things that we've discussed here, if you think, that's all helpful and important, and this framework kind of removes the sort of eye out of things and helps you just evaluate music for what it is, almost as if you're listening to it as a listener. That helps you move your songs forward and improve them, like those little structural changes, things like that. Then it's good, isn't it? Because, what we have to be more concerned about is what we're doing next. Because each piece of music is a point to learn, okay? So in your point of learning something here, Sign, it's about feedback. I'm spending a lot of time, so we're talking about feedback. You're wanting feedback. So think this is a lesson. It's not me giving track feedback. This is a lesson on feedback and how we should use it and what is important and what isn't. And that's a super important lesson, okay? Because it keeps you proactive. And to be proactive, you're going to apply all these things to your next piece of music, okay? No, you can just put it out. Don't worry about it. You just put it out and let them beg for more. They'll just kind of search for the next thing that's like similar to your thing, and then you can come back. So don't worry about that. Just put it out and get writing. I mean, saying you could sit there with your, you could sit there, right, with your acoustic guitar, right, and just bang out song after song without a band. I would happily listen to the intro of that song because it's interesting. You could sit there and just Sign does acoustic album and let everybody wait for the full band. You could do it that way. That would be perfectly fine. Well recorded, well played, and then you could release all your acoustic songs as a full band, couldn't you? So I wouldn't worry about that. There are ways to do things. I would simply just put it out. It's not even being reckless. We've got to be carefree. What's more important is you as an artist connecting with the world, right? That's all that matters. Okay, just by putting that one song out and not doing anything else, right, or not following up for 2 years is irrelevant. Okay, it's about you making a connection, and then people hearing that going, "Oh, that's a really good song," and then they can be hungry for more. How about that? Okay. So there's lots of ways, and lots of opportunities. There'll be plenty of people. I mean, when you think about it as an artist, right, you could sit there with your acoustic guitar, right? You could do live stream now. You get your camera, you could put it on. You probably even got half the gear. You could get yourself a GoPro, plug your acoustic guitar in, and like any old crappy mic, and you would be delivering that space. You could sit somewhere half interesting, and play, and that would be doing stuff. So there are so many things saying that you could do to have a music career now, straight away, with like no effort, just doing what you're doing. Yeah. Well, you could do what you want. You'd have your acoustic guitar, and you could just hop on a bus and go anywhere and play. You'd be free. You'd be living the dream. I mean, I'm excited for you, to be fair. But releasing and making a connection to the outside world is very, very important, because when you start doing that, and I excessively did releasing, right, because I became so addicted to actually making that connection, and the feeling that I was addicted to, that I love and I still get now to this day, was I feel like an artist, right? Now, it doesn't matter. I mean, luckily for me, I have a job as a full-time musician, right? But actually, if I was stacking shelves in a supermarket, it wouldn't matter. I was making that connection, and I was getting recognition for the thing that I love doing most, right? And I would have felt like an artist. Not every aspect of what I do as a full-time musician I like, okay? But that feeling like you've got that you're an artist, that you've got something to offer to the world, is the best feeling. It's better. You can't buy that feeling, right? You can buy as many guitars, as many pedals as you want, right? Okay, but you can only have that feeling by releasing music, by doing something, by putting your own skin in the game. And this is important. So this is why I've got to be a bit full on when I'm mentioning this, because it's not just you, Sign. I mean, you've got a great track there that's perfectly releasable. But anybody else here who's sitting with music, why are you doing it? All right? Why is it not going out in some shape or form? Why are we not making our connection to the world? Why are we not doing these things? And this is why this channel is changing well, it's not changing direction, but why I'm building more of a kind of course sort of vibe to it, why we're going to be talking about habits, because those of you who want to do that and want to build up the resilience to doing this, this is where you're going to get it, okay? By turning up here and hearing things like this, okay? Now, for those of you who don't feel like you want to write music but love this sort of session, then that's also perfectly fine as well. And there's lots of things that you can take away from this, like paths, how we evaluate our stuff, and you can, if you're doing an instrument, you can apply it to that. if you're songwriting just for your own pleasure, you can do that. You can work on the art, perfect. It's another tool that you can use. This is the tool I use. I'm sure there'll be many other tools. Okay, so excellent. Sawmill sessions ship. It's the second one that comes up. Looks like a real ship. Okay. My problem is I don't care about the masses. People don't even know what good music is. So if they like my music, so what? It doesn't mean it so what doesn't mean it's good. I don't need validation like that. Brilliant. Yeah, absolutely. And you can just release music not because you need validation. It's because simply there's people out there who need your music, who want to hear it, who it's going to make their day better. It's going to make their day go smoother. Somebody out there is going to listen to your music and say, well, Sign Guy, he's speaking my mind. This is like, I want to be part of this tribe. Yeah. So you're perfectly right. We don't need the validation as artists. We don't need to, we just do what we do. And then if people like it, then they like it and they get a lot from it, Absolutely. 100%. The same. Right, okay. So not everybody in the world. Original music is not what people want to hear these days. They want the same track. Yeah, but what about the people, right, who don't want to hear original music? What about the people who want to hear original music? Sign, you see, you're filling the gap there. And it's that Seth Godin thing, a thousand true fans, and you can have a career. So it's not about the masses, but it's about you serving the minority of people like who are on this stream, who like your music now. How about serving them? Because I want to hear more. Where am I going to get that? And I'm quite happy to listen to the acoustic guitar versions. I'm not even for now, whilst you sort the band out, come on, I like, I want to hear in fact, I want to hear the acoustic guitar versions more than I want to hear the real band. I want to hear the stripped down version. I want to hear the DNA of what's going on here. So you've got your audience to serve now, Sign. So it's important. That's if you want to do that. So anyway, what I'd like to do, Sign, because this has been a really really good session, right? What I'd like to do is, would you like a free coaching session with me? Because I could schedule in that, because I've probably opened up a lot of thoughts and issues, right, that you probably want to explore, right? So if you want a free one-to-one coaching session with me to go through some ideas on how you can move forward, would you like to book one in? And it'll be on Zoom. Because, Sign, there is potential. We need to explore these things. Right, okay. So just email me and we're going to come up with some times, okay? And I'll make some time. I'm going to fit you in for an hour, okay? And we can discuss what you're doing, how you're going to move it forward. And then if you want to move it forward, you can do. But I just see there's like potential there. And it's so easy for you to kind of but it would be so easy. I'm not saying you're not an artist, but it would be so easy for you to just be living your musical dream. I don't really see like what the barriers are, right? And I think, a lot of the time we constrain ourselves. So I'd be really interested just to explore what your thoughts are on your music and what your intentions are, if any, or, that would be great, wouldn't it? But again, Sign, thank you for letting us hear your music, because I know it's tough and hard, and it's really putting yourself out there. So I totally appreciate, and I really appreciate, the your honest opinions of your music and sharing that with everybody. It's brilliant, really good. What a session today has been. And I was thinking, I'm going to put the track feedback off, and then I just suddenly yesterday, like when we're on the live, you know what? No, we'll do it. We'll do it on a Friday. So I'm so glad I got up for this, because it's brilliant. So I hope everybody else has enjoyed that. Now, just opening up the floor to everybody else. I know I've been ignoring sort of comments that have been going on. Anybody else, has there been any thoughts anybody else have had about maybe their own situation, their own sort of musical situations and music and feedback? Because I think we've got a lot more out of this than just track feedback. I mean, what amazes me is like how we don't realise how much potential we actually already have. And then you realise that, a couple of tweaks here and there, and you can be out there, you can be an artist, you can be releasing music, you can be doing things. Yay, thanks for being there, guys. It's been a pleasure, isn't it? So I'll nip back. So Discord, yeah. So you join Discord, Texas, and then what's the Discord channel name? It's in the about on this channel. So if you go to about, there's a Discord link, and that's your invite. It's a good song. I like it. Good stream. Got to pick the wife up from work. Brilliant, Hippie. Thank you for being here and supporting and everything. It's wonderful. So, yes, it's in Discord, Enzo. We can listen to it again and again now. Okay, cool. I think I'm caught up pretty much. Couple of minutes left. Anybody want to say anything? Is everybody cool? I'm hoping that Sign has given us, well, I've certainly been given a lot of inspiration through today's session, and I'm hoping this has inspired all of you guys as well. And that's paths, how to evaluate your music. I'm submitting my works anonymously to begin with. Submitting where? And why be anonymous? I mean, when you're submitting something anonymously, it's like it's only, music's never hurts anybody, you know. Yeah. Cool. So you just got to remember the simple formulas: describe, explain, brainstorm options, how you're going to solve the problems. And that's it. But the main thing is like having a scientific way to remove you from, you know, the emotional thoughts that you have about the music, and being able to work with the music as in the data coming out of your speaker. That's what it is. Well, we can cool. Maybe we could talk about this at some point on the stream. Cool. Okay, so it's now time for my park walk. I've got 9 thumbs up. Now, just checking, has everybody done the likes? And anybody on here who has been lurking and not subscribed, do please subscribe. Those of you who are on here, regulars or what have you, you've been on the Patreon, try and join free. If you want to pay the $4 a month, that's amazing, and thank you. But don't feel under obligation to do that. But when you join, it's not become a member. There's 3 dots, right? And then you go join. All right. So there's been like lots of people like not joining. But if you just join, it just simply the number goes up and I feel better. That's it. Everything's number driven. Right. Okay. To avoid direct, I'm making a note of this now. Avoid direct scrutiny. So this is what we're going to be covering in now. I'm sort of running the free coaching program because it's, you know, I hate to say it, but it's part of fear, isn't it? I'd love the attention of direct scrutiny. Please, somebody scrutinize me. We could have a whole session. Everybody scrutinize Tim. What are you doing that for? Why are you doing that? Yeah, agreed. They're never good enough. These are great. They're never good enough. Right? Just put the... I've got to go soon. Yeah, this is like all the thoughts. Everybody has these thoughts. Yeah. All right. So we'll do some more stuff on this, and I think we can do. I've got my helpful and unhelpful thoughts somewhere, which I'll dig out. I haven't had to get them out for a while, but we could do helpful and unhelpful thoughts at some point. We're also going to be playing a game which I absolutely love, and that is design versus discovery. So these are all things to look forward to coming up on streams. So it's time for the park, everybody. Do thumbs up, subscribe, Patreon, do whatever you can to support the channel. It's been a pleasure. And again, thanks, Sign, and we'll work, you know, send an email, we'll work, well, I've got your email, we'll work a time out. All right? Cool. See ya.